Welcome everyone to the Small Times Movies podcast, where three friends come together to discuss the latest in movies. Today we'll be talking about Ghostbusters Afterlife. I am Sean, joined always by Randy and Stelios.
So, very simply, Ghostbusters Afterlife is like 30 years after Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and it's about a family who moves out into the middle of nowhere, and they end up finding that they have particular ties to the original Ghostbusters. That is the most spoiler-free way of explaining this movie. And shenanigans happen.
Who's in it?
I don't know. Do you know any of the guy from Stranger
Rudd.
Things? Well, yeah, Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd is...
Yeah, but he's not a central character. Actually, you know what? Okay, so this movie was directed by Jason Reitman, right? That's the son.
Yes.
And his father,
Ivan.
His father
Ivan
had
Reitman.
something. Ivan Reitman. His father is the one who directed the first one.
And wrote
First
it.
two.
He did
First two.
both of them, right? He directed and produced both 1 and 2.
Yes.
So it's kind of like passing the helm, and in a way, the movie has a lot of that as well. We follow
I never thought
a
about
young
that.
girl, Phoebe. Yes, her name is
Yes.
Phoebe. Played by what's her face, McKenna Grace, right?
Yep.
McKenna Grace. And it's like her little awkward personality trying to find her place in the world, which is a lot of what Reitman does. He has a lot of movies. This is the best Ghostbusters movie directed by somebody who probably shouldn't have directed the Ghostbusters movie. If that makes any sense. Because this guy did Juno, for God's sakes.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like
Yeah.
his writing credits are for other films that really aren't in that genre.
Not an action movie, not a horror suspense movie. He did Thank You for Smoking. I remember Juno, Up in the Air, which I had to look up again because I really like that movie. And then the most recently, obviously, Ghostbusters Afterlife. He's got some really good, hard hitting, heartstring pulling movies.
Okay, that explains some things about the film. Not going to say them just yet, but I can
Right.
see that because there's elements of that later on for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So overall, what are your thoughts? Still, since you're already talking.
Honestly, we're gonna save the rating for later, but I think this is a very heartfelt movie for the fans. That being said, it also didn't really need to be made, but I liked it. I think it was a really solid flick. I kind of just wish it wasn't a Ghostbusters movie.
Okay, all right.
Wait, when did we all see it now? I saw it with you. Sean, when did you watch
Yes.
it?
I saw it Saturday afternoon.
So we've had some days
late.
to kind of mull it over. It's been a
Too
couple
late.
of days at least.
We saw it Friday.
I call
Nice.
Sean the next day, be like, I know what happens. He's like, no! No!
Text him all the spoilers as he's watching it.
All right, Sean.
I had to wait. I watched it with friends of mine who we grew up watching Ghostbusters. So, I had to wait for that
Is
moment.
this the same friend that watched Dune with you?
No, because I watched Dune alone.
That must
I
have
thought
been
you
a
said
long
you
I
had
have a
buddy
friend. Well, I have a buddy who loves Dune.
Okay.
Who I watched the miniseries with, but no, we couldn't align times to watch Dune together,
Okay,
which is
fair
fine.
All right,
All right,
Randy, you gotta tell me what you think about this movie, so we can go to the main attraction, Sean, and see how he feels.
Oh, okay. I'm going next. I really enjoyed it. I will say, it was a fun film because it was attached to the property of Ghostbusters. You're never gonna live up to what the original has, and given that it's an all new cast for this film, it's like watching the Goonies with Ghostbusters to some extent. Because they're kids, they have certain behaviors, and I understand where they're going with the story, but the personality of the Ghostbusters from 1 and 2 are absent for this film because they're not front and center at all. It's a whole different cast. So these guys can't give you're not going to have the banter of all the characters. One of the actors, Harold Ramis, is actually dead, so they couldn't even do it in the first place. So that was sort of weighing in on my mind as it came to near the final the peak, the thing of the plot, not the plot, the part of the movie where it all comes together. What's the word?
Climax.
Climax. Yes, that thing.
Randy's never reached it, so he doesn't know what the word
I
is.
don't know what it is. It's so lost. Yes, by the time the climax hits, I'm trying to relate it back to, because there are elements of like callbacks to what makes Ghostbusters, including the first film, and it just didn't feel like it. It didn't mean it was bad. It just meant it was in the shadow of the first film, I'd say more in particular, and that was working against it. But put that aside, because I don't think it could ever beat that, given that it's coming from that media. I really enjoyed it. John.
All right. As a fan of Ghostbusters growing up, the first one's one of my favorite films of all time, and I'm a big fan of the sequel, even though it gets a lot of, I think, hate these days for what it is. I really enjoyed this movie, and in two ways. One, I think it stands alone as a unique story, a nice family drama / comedy that I think works on its own merits, and it really harkens back to Jason Reitman's sort of style of filmmaking. And fun fact, he actually was in Ghostbusters 2 as the kid at the beginning of the movie who's like having like a birthday party and like hates the Ghostbusters. In this film, I think
This whole world is a lie. How did I not know that?
And because this film has, I think, a strong story and strong characters, and sort of like it builds something that's emotional and heartfelt, which you don't really get in a Ghostbusters film. This film, I think, actually earns all the nostalgia points it throws at you. And there's a lot of nostalgia thrown at you, and some of them feel forced and kind of like a little too much. But I think all the stuff I adore and like about Ghostbusters that I get to see again, I think really hit home for me. Stuff I wanted to see, because it's a hard balance when you're doing sort of a sequel years later, and you're marketing it to either a fan base who adores the originals and wants to see the continuation of that, sort of like your Force Awakens. What's the balance there? But also a new audience who maybe doesn't know Ghostbusters or knows them from different properties, comic books and new cartoons and stuff like that. So I think it did a really good job of balancing those two things and earning the nostalgia it provided. I thought it was really solid. I thought the humor hit for the most part. There's a few things I think that didn't work that we can get into in spoilers and stuff like that, but I'd see this again in a heartbeat. And you could say it's not warranted or it's unnecessary, but I feel like in a way it is, because it's continuing a legacy, and I think that's important.
Okay. All really good points. Can't say I disagree with any of that. Actually.
No, I when I say unwarranted, I just felt the last Ghostbusters movie we had was this all-female cast, like a lot more bombastic, a lot more flashy, pushing more into that improvised comedy. I honestly vaguely remember it. I watched a lot of movies when I watched that at home, but I remember this movie more fondly because it had merit, which I agree with you.
Yeah.
Those little memorabilia kind of things, they're fine, but I like how our principal cast surrounded themselves with that stuff. And I do literally mean stuff. So when we get into the more spoiler section...
Actually... never, keep going.
I can explain more easily, and I don't want to give like things away. Like as far as like, you should watch this movie because it's made very well.
Yes. It's
filmed very well. Everything was really enjoyable about it. Like I cannot walk out of this movie saying like, regardless of if I thought it was a great Ghostbusters movie or anything, I'm like, this is a well-made film that if you take the Ghostbusters shit out of it, it's still a good movie.
Yep.
Agreed.
And when it leans into that, the first Ghostbusters mythology and lore and the characters, it feels logical. So I Sean, I 100% agree with you. It earns those points.
Cool. All right. I just wanted to add one thing before we go to the spoilers and main discussion. I want to see if you guys felt this. Actually, it's spoilers. We're going right into spoilers, but this next
spoilers
actually has spoilers. But if
you have a transition now,
there
you have
are
to make
spoilers.
a transition. It's gonna be like
Spoiler talk. But touch base on the Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy version. Looking back, although at first I didn't really enjoy that film, the second watch I enjoyed it more because I just stopped giving a shit. But I felt that was truer in tone to the original Ghostbusters versus this. However, this is a significantly better film. As a filmmaker, as an actor, this is like why I like to go to the movies. So again, I said it was in the shadow of the original, and because of that, it'll have that limitation. It doesn't really, like, if you can let go of that, you'll really enjoy the film, which is what I was doing. Forgiving it for that, because it can never, like, unless I see Bill Murray walking around on screen doing his thing as Peter Venkman, like young Venkman too, it's not the same. But now that we're in spoilers, we can talk about everything. So, are there things that you wanted to discuss in the non-spoiler section that you really liked, like certain scenes that stood out?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, the whole opening of this movie is incredible.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
going full spoiler. So having a Ghostbuster, having Egon in the shadows, sort of like that sort of like action sequence, really kicked it off really well.
Yes.
And to talk about, I guess, briefly about the 2016 one, the tone of that movie I found, it did harken back to the original, but I think one of the flaws in it is its tone's kind of all over the place. One of the genius things about Ghostbusters is it takes its material so seriously. Everyone in the movie, this movie as well, is very serious. They're not all zany, but in that movie, your mayor, your university, what do you call it, dean, every character in that movie is funny and weird. And what I think where Ghostbusters really stands apart is that our heroes, for the most part, like the three of them, really, are the ones who are a little comedic, and they're the ones who sort of stand out. This film, I think, really balanced that and really got us. So the opening was really incredible. The ending was great, even though it really harkens back to the ending of the first film, like bringing back, you have Gozer, you have the Terror Dogs, you have your Zool and your Vince Closor coming together in the dress, and like that sort of possession story still there. So a lot of it harkens back, and I think a lot of that's doing the Force Awakens type thing. Like let's bring everything back to where it was, but let's sort of start anew with new characters. Some of the stuff that really was weird to me is there's this scene in like a Walmart with like Stay Puft marshmallows
that was
coming
a
to
whole
life, and I'm like,
dedicated scene to Paul Rudd. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, I know it's a throwback to the original, but are these marshmallows dead? Are they coming? Like, why are these being activated? Besides, is like Zool, or I guess not Zool, Gozer, having fun with sort of her previous encounters in New York like 30 years ago. Like it's just sort of a weird thing that kind of felt there to, we're going to sell these little cute little marshmallow men as a product or a toy or something, so we're going to put them in the movie, but they have no reason to exist.
Well, product placement alone, like
Yeah.
the entire section in Walmart, that really didn't need to be there. That being said, like I really enjoyed Paul Rudd in this movie. Again, like you could have put literally anyone in that role, but Paul Rudd is just such a likable person.
Oh yeah.
Because he comes off as this. He was the teacher. We also Phoebe ends up going to summer school. I don't know why, because she's clearly a genius, right? She's like stupid smart, but I guess like they just needed something to do after getting evicted from, I guess, where were they? New York, probably New York.
I think
like
so.
Manhattan. So they get evicted. They end up in this like small little town, whatever its name is. It doesn't matter. And Phoebe's stuck in summer school. Somerville. Thank you. And her older brother, which is what's his name, Wolfgang. Wolfram.
He's
Stranger Things kid.
Stranger Things. Yeah.
Yeah, Trevor.
Trevor. Yeah, that one.
In this, he's Trevor. Yeah.
He's Trevor. So that guy, like he gets a little job.
Is it
Phoebe's
Mike
in summer school.
in Stranger
Mike
Things?
in Stranger Things. Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
So she, Phoebe's in class and she's like, yeah, I want to learn because like I'm into that shit. And then the science teacher walks in. He's like, yo, I'm throwing on Cujo. I was like, this is
And
the
Chucky
teacher
later.
I wanted. Yeah, and Chucky. And those scenes were like, they were just genuinely funny because it harkens back to that horror comedy thing, right? Child's Play Child's Play is even back now. Chucky's a series on Sci-Fi,
Chucky's,
no?
that's
Or
right.
whatever
Yep.
it is.
Oh yeah.
So Phoebe's like, I want to learn, and then as soon as Paul Rudd's like, wait, you know science? He gets to geek out with her, and then you start seeing this little shy kid who is brilliant, start to go out. So like it's about an hour before we get any of the actual ghost busting stuff.
But
But
that's
in
fine. There's a
between
lot
that,
of setup for the characters to develop,
Yeah.
for them to grow, to face
Yeah.
challenges.
and that's what Jason Reitman exceeds at. He gives characters time to grow. And when you're watching that arc and you see Phoebe starting to get close to all of Igor's past stuff because the house is his that they end up inheriting after his passing, right? And you don't know why he kind of went into the middle of nowhere. Like, he's a goddamn Ghostbuster. He should be rich and famous. But that's not how this world played out. These guys kind of started as schmucks, even though they are brilliant in the original Ghostbusters, right? They become famous. And in Ghostbusters 2, what's the first thing that's happening? They're getting sued. And this movie kind of like plays right into that. It's like, yeah, things maybe they did their job too well. There aren't any more ghosts. That's it. Like, what did the Ghostbusters do all these years later? Well, one of them ends up going quote unquote crazy and lives in the middle of nowhere. He becomes a dirt farmer, right? Leaves all his ghost shit there.
That's true. I mean, yeah, Paul Rudd is great because he's sort of us as fans. Like, he's the older guy. He's the one who loves the Ghostbusters, and he
Neat
brings that to
replica.
it.
The ghost
Yeah.
truck.
Oh yeah,
He's like,
the guy's life work was a replica.
yeah. Yeah. With a ghost in it. Oh, Sean's frozen.
No, he just pulled the cardboard
Oh.
cutout.
Okay, that's right. Cardboard cutout. That's what it was.
He
He's
just
back.
moves it over to the side. He's like, I'm here.
What did you think of the
Yes.
introduction of the actual, like, original cast in the end of this film?
Well, so the first introduction, obviously, besides sort of like the Spangler stuff, is Ray, which was a huge exposition done to be like, hey, here's what happened between, I guess, part 2
Recap.
and now. Yeah, and sort of like it was good. A little weird that he would just tell this girl, who he didn't know was Spangler's granddaughter
Yeah.
until the end of the conversation. But I did like seeing him, and I like sort of like, okay, this is where we're at. Oh, it's a little more tense than what I thought it would be. Why Spangler left and his sort of cause to sort of stop Gozer and everything. I like seeing the cast back. I thought they were great. I found that was one moment where you could have had like a score come in, like the music from the original, like have it sort of build up a little like callback or something. But it could have hit harder, I think, the way
Yes.
they did it. But when they were there, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed everything after they did in the film and in the post credits.
Yeah, I think that's my feelings exactly. It was almost super predictable when they were going to enter.
Yeah.
It was just like, and enter the Ghostbusters, and then they were there, and I went, okay, I still like it, but I will say this, it was kind of funny. Just, I mean, the audience, they don't know, but you guys know this. Dana turned to me earlier when the mom got possessed, and she looked at me and she goes, "There is no Dana, there is only Zool." And I was just because like I think 2 minutes later, there was no mom, there is only Zool, and Dana, like she has this thing, a picture of like her, and then a picture of Olivia Wilde, and they look very similar in both pictures. And then
Nice.
when villain, what's the villain? It's a G. The main villain, Ghostbusters.
Gozer.
Gozer, that's it. When Gozer shows up, it's Olivia Wilde playing her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I went,
She was great.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try and get Dana to dress as Gozer for Halloween next year. I think it'll
That'd be
be
terrifying.
awesome. yeah.
It's
To
just,
get,
just straight
hairpiece for us.
terrifying.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw that little bit in there that you guys find that funny.
You know, these kinds of movies are very like everything's kind of coming back over the last like 7 to 10 years, right? Everything's made a comeback. Terminator's back, right?
Terminator
there
keeps
was
coming back, but
That's
I mean,
true. They keep
for
trying.
Yeah.
Child's Play. They had a Child's Play, right? We brought back Dune. Like everything's coming back. The Game of Thrones hasn't stayed dead. It needs to.
Dexter's back.
Dexter's back. Yeah. So I don't want to go too off track here, but you know, like with this kind of like, what are they gonna do? If they don't continue, they have a good cast.
I don't think there's a need to continue.
They will,
Well,
obviously.
they set it up for at the end of the movie to continue, and I think the start of this film, the start of the 2016 film, had Ghost Corps as like sort of like your MCU type thing at the beginning of the movie. So it is. We have Sony trying to establish a new franchise, and I think it can go places in the right hands. I mean, the argument of the reboots and remakes and long dormant sequels, like take Dumb and Dumber 2 for example, a movie that when announced I was dying for it, and it wasn't great in the end. For me at least, it wasn't something that I really enjoyed. But I have friends who really enjoyed it, and like that's fine. I'd rather something come back and they give it a shot, and if it works, great, like your Blade Runner 2049. Or if it doesn't, then it doesn't. That's
Right.
that's fine with me. But I think this is something they're gonna, based on box office return, obviously. But they can do TV with this. I mean, if Sony has a streaming service, I have no idea. But they can do sequels, and they can go in new directions with with spoilers here. Like you have your Winston Zedmore's sort of like kind of like running the Ghostbusters, in the background, paying the mortgage of Ray's occult bookstore and keeping the firehouse alive and stuff like that. And you have Annie Potts there and stuff.
True.
So
Yeah,
I
because
think
he's
there are
done well
ways to do
financially.
this. Yeah, so I think they've set it up in a way where it can go in different places, which is good, and not reliant on the original team. It'll be challenging, I guess, really, but I'm in for it to see where they go. But kind of like Dune, it's like wait till the return in the box office, then we'll announce a sequel.
Yeah.
This movie had everything going against it. And to
course.
the fact that it was as good as it was while being an homage to the original, showing the Ecto 1, showing the scene with turning on the proton pack and enjoying those little member berries. Like, it didn't, even though it did lean into them, it leaned into them tastefully. So another really, really big spoiler is that they were using Harold Ramis's likeness as Igor, who, like, you could argue in the original two movies is not really that much of a main character. But there was a dedication. It's at the end of the movie, right? When they put
He is a main
Harold.
character, though. He's pretty much the one who starts.
But
the
he's
war.
not the focus by any stretch.
No, but there's no Ghostbusters
No.
without him.
No, it's like it's three. Bill Murray's like the guy, like he was
Yeah.
a star, and
Yeah.
Harold Ramis is sort of like he's like the third guy. You have scientist, you have the heart, you have the mouth. It's really the brains,
Yeah.
the heart, and the mouth
Yeah.
are the three Ghostbusters.
That's an amazing way to explain that. Brains, the heart, and the mouth.
Yeah.
And in this
And
movie,
they-
you got the brains in the mouth with Podcast and Phoebe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The heart, I guess the heart kind of comes from Phoebe more so than any other character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And podcast, I'll just say I really enjoyed him. That's where I really
think
got
everyone did.
as Randy said, like the Goonies, your Monster
Yeah.
Squad type
Yeah.
sort of feel to it. Like good chemistry, good comedic beats, and I think child humor can be really hard to do, and it comes across a lot of times as being adult humor, but put down into a child's mouth. But this felt like these were kids talking,
Yes.
which was great.
It felt very authentic. I felt like
Yeah.
I
Authentic,
never got
yeah.
pulled out of it. The
I agree.
performances, what they were able to get out of those kids, and credit to the actors, was amazing. Because I was watching it going, if I was a kid trying to act, I would not be able to. Like, I could do that now, give off a genuine performance, but at that age, the depth they're able to go to, even the subtleties, I'm thinking, like, how do you know that as a kid? So casting did a really good job. Podcast, yeah, he definitely steals the show when he first shows up, and he has his little bits here and there.
I kept
So,
expecting him to go like he talks into his own little boom mic, right? He carries it on, and every time he finishes a sentence, because Randy, watched this indie film not too long ago, he's nice.
Yeah.
And I was doing it in a theater, and you didn't hear me.
No, I didn't hear you.
I was like, nice.
I called out
That's
J.
great.
Jonah Jameson at one point when he was in the coffin. I'm like, I want pictures of
Oh, yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. J.K. Simmons is in the movie for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was
just
the
gets
point of that?
wasted.
Ghost was like,
Maybe he's probably just a fan.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
he was in
wanted
Up
to
in
do
the
it.
Air. He's in a bunch of Jason Reitman movies. Maybe he's just like, hey, I'll play this small role.
Yeah,
in
I
this.
think that's probably what it was. Easy
Yeah.
on casting. Now we're running low on time, so rating. What would you guys rate this?
Start with Sean.
I would say good. I say, for all its sort of like tiny things that I can pick at, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a solid film in general. It's the drama, it's the funny, it's some of the action, and for fans of Ghostbusters, I think it hits a lot of the nostalgia really, really squarely. Not all the time, but I think I'm looking forward to see this again and watch it over the years.
Stelios?
I'm giving it a good. It's a very wholesome, heartfelt movie with very good production values, great use of set designs, good special effects. The only thing I kind of wish they got to was the ghost busting stuff a little bit earlier, because the film is sorely lacking that. However, everything else is A+. Everyone's on their game, man. This is just a really well done movie. You can't argue that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say good. All the same points. If I were to have it my way, I don't even think it's. I think if I added more elements of what I wanted from a Ghostbusters movie, primarily the original cast, the film would actually be worse as an overall film. I think it's tight, pacing's great, minus the Walmart scene, and the actors definitely have arcs that they go through, especially the lead with Phoebe, and you really feel for her character. And that ending does hit, and it hits pretty hard in a nice emotional.
Oh, it
happy,
slaps
sad
you
moment.
across the face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it really
Right?
does. It makes you feel like movies are there to make you feel something at the end of the day, and there's what works and there's what doesn't work, and this film absolutely works. So good from me. Any extras we got? Like,
I have one, but Sean, are you first?
I got one, and one of the jokes that really landed for me. It was Annie Potts coming back and delivering the news to, I think it was Kaylee, the mom, about the house and what she gets. And
Oh,
she's
yeah,
like, "So I get nothing." She's like, "No, there's a lot of debt."
yeah, there's a
So
lot.
that really hit.
Yeah, that was there.
That was
Yeah,
really
that was
good.
nice. I was glad to see the other Ghostbusters back too, especially Bill Murray. So I remember years ago hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he was one of the reasons why, like, they had never made a third film. He kept vetoing
Yes.
because he had veto power. So I mean, obviously he's in this. They made it.
There is, just jump in here. There is a third film, kind of. It's a video game they made
Yes.
I've heard about
a
it.
while ago, and the original cast is in it. It's written by Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd again. It's really, I played it twice. It's remastered on like newer systems now. It's really good.
Yes, the
Great
Ghostbusters video
gameplay.
game is A+ stuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
so that's
maybe
kind
I'll
of like your
check it out.
third film-ish. Yeah.
I think so. When they called it Ghostbuster Afterlife, I really didn't care about. I didn't pay attention to the subtitle. When you watch
Really?
the movie, because I didn't. Because I didn't. I
the
didn't
trailer.
realize. Hold up. But I
looks
did not.
like Harold Ramis.
No. That part is fine. But
Okay.
I didn't know they were going to use
Or
his
Igor.
ghost.
Yeah.
Igor's ghost is throughout the entire movie, and at first he doesn't really manifest, other than just like moving checkerboards and pieces and stuff like that. And he's like he manipulates like
Very
a light
Patrick
source.
Swayze.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
But see, once I realized, oh, that's how they're playing it, and I liked that because one, it's a tasteful way to bring back a character that is actually it's past is dead. Unlike in a lot of other, you mentioned Star Wars movies where they just CGI some guy's face on there, and like it's that to me is a little bit cheesy. It's like, okay, so you just have to use the original character, you didn't. And anyways, so they used him or his presence in a way to direct the characters and therefore grow the characters, and that's something I really enjoy too. I'm saving it for now in case somebody gets bored of our voices and doesn't want to get spoiled. I was thinking, I'm like, why is
I
nobody
would say
talking
that was a bit unfair for Star Wars. Granted, Leia, what's her
Carrie, forget Carrie.
Yeah,
Carrie's
she
reasonable.
died as they were making things. Like
Yes.
Harold
Yeah.
Ramis has been dead for a while for them to write.
And
the story.
Ghostbusters works in Ghosts, so it really
That
plays
too.
itself too.
Yes,
Well, there's
yes,
Force
absolutely.
Ghosts. There are Force ghosts in Star Wars.
Yeah,
Not
but
that I
it's
would-
so specific. You got to be a Force user.
She is a Force user.
learn it.
They made her a Force user, and then she died in real life. So, anyway, not joking
fair.
about that too much.
Too soon.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up there. That's Ghostbusters Afterlife. That's our take on it. Any last words?
Go see it.
Ghost, see it.
Yes, Ghost, see it.
Go see it.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end this video. Like, subscribe, check out our socials in the link below, and we will see you, or you'll see us later. I don't know if you have an outro there, Sean.
No, that's pretty much it. Good
Okay.
job.